one of the things that I think exciting is everything's walkable. There are restaurants, there are bars, rooftop bars. It's right next to the arena. Folks can rent an Airbnb boat if they want to stay on there. And there'll be multiple. You're like, done. You're on re-up, baby. But there'll be multiple hotels in our block. They're smaller hotels, so we'll have different price points for different hotels. And there's, I think she said 8 hotels within walking distance of the convention center.
Welcome to ArcPoint Forensics monthly podcast, Unallocated Space. I'm your host, Amy Moles, and co-host Jared Ringenberg. In this podcast, we host DFIR industry experts who tell us how they journeyed into the space, current challenges they face, and what's next. Today, we're joined by Jennifer. Jared?
Hey, thanks, Amy. Yeah, my name's Jared. Today, we've got Jennifer Salvadori. She's the event director for Techno Security and Digital Forensics Conference and is an extremely well-rounded trade show events professional. From exhibit sales to on-site logistics, Jennifer possesses a keen understanding of what it takes to make an event run smoothly from start to finish. Her experience in the industry spans nearly 30 years. Before entering the industry, Jennifer seriously considered joining the police academy. Growing up in a military family, Jennifer was raised with a strong value system and commitment to truth and justice. Jennifer's passion to help get the bad guys, combined with her event industry experience, makes her the perfect choice for being the face of Techno for over 7 years. Her outgoing personality, dedicated approach, and devotion to the brand is apparent to all she meets. Jennifer is a dedicated mom of 4, an avid runner, and loves to travel to Italy to visit family. She resides in Atlanta, Georgia, with her family and Great Dane Ari. Jennifer, welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, you sound busy both professionally and personally. How do you keep it all straight?
I don't all the time, so it may appear that I do, but I have a posse of family that lives nearby, and as they say, it takes a village. We've got an amazing community here. Families of my kids' friends, basketball teams, crew teams, swim teams. And we just get it done. And Rossville is actually a very small geographically. I think my world exists within about a 6-mile radius. So
that definitely helps, shrinking and all.
Yeah.
So we had a blast at Techno this year. I know that it has been really, really busy for us at the booth, but I can't imagine as an event director how that seems behind the scenes. Can you tell us a little bit of like the history of Techno, how it got started, why it got started, and maybe the team that's involved in making this successful?
I absolutely can. So there's a lot of people in the industry who can probably tell you more about the history than I can, because when it came to us, it was a lot of handed down word of mouth, the stories of Techno. But it was originally founded, this session was the 23rd edition of the flagship conference, as we call it.
Wow.
So it wasn't always in Myrtle Beach. From my understanding, it had a couple more homes just for a few years, but it's been in Myrtle Beach most of the time. It was started
About
by
20 years, right?
For close, I can't definitively put a number on that. We could probably ask some of the folks who've been there for every single. I know our advisory board, I think one of the guys has been on it for 18 years. So been there for 18 years. So he could probably tell more. But so now and then I get these snippets and stories as I meet more people through the years. But Jack and Don were the original owners. They were retired agency guys. And they just knew the space. It used to be, more kind of computer security and physical security initially, I believe. And then at some point they combined with the mobile forensics world, which existed for maybe a year or two up in Chicago. And so when we took it on 7 years ago, the company that I work for actually manages the event for Comexposium, which is the 3rd largest event producer in the world. They produce the Millipole events. A lot of our guys in the industry here know the Millipole events. As a matter of fact, we're trying to add a Techno pavilion into Paris and Singapore in the coming years. So we purchased it, when I say we, again, Comexposium, and then our team manages it 7 years ago. 8, I guess, if you count COVID. I've been here 8 years with 7 events. And we have an amazing team of mostly women who have a lot of industry experience. So Allison and I, she handles the speakers. I kind of event direct. She and I are the only 2 ones that are dedicated full time to Techno.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I love it when people say, well, what do you do the rest of the year if you only have 2 events? it literally is, year round. We start planning for the next event well before we're even on site. So, and then we have operations staff, Mary Kate, who was on site this year. She's the director of operations. Usually her and one other operations manager will work on it behind the scenes. They handle things like hotel contracts, registration, our general contractor, the AV, all of those kind of material things, the food and beverage. And then we do have a marketing manager. Actually, now she's our director. She handles it. And we've got another marketing person that's being pulled in sometimes. And then, of course, you've met my boss, Stephanie, on site as well. She kind of oversees things, the budget and everything. So there's not a lot of us.
Yeah, it's amazing how we actually feel the same way. There's not a lot of us either, and we can pull off some amazing things for the small team. So I think that's kind of key, though, is when you have a small team, everybody has to be, have their sights on like the target and be able to, execute with the most level of efficiency to get it all done.
Right.
So.
Knowing what that critical path is as a team is so, we are such a timeline driven group. Everything is planned out. So COVID was especially hard for us because, those timelines kept getting reset and reset and reset. Something that would normally happen 20 months out, we would redo it, 15, then we'd redo it 2 weeks later, then 2 weeks later, and just being hopeful throughout that process. So we all seriously follow that timeline and know that most of us can jump in on most anything at any given time, which this year was a perfect example. I left Techno 2 days early. I scooted out of there Tuesday afternoon. And honestly, once I hit that road, I had no worries about the team handling everything that I would normally do on site. So it went smoothly.
Awesome.
Great.
So speaking of COVID, like what was the long-term impacts? Have you seen any actually for the conference?
I think, well, initially when all the events were going either hybrid or virtual, we had a discussion about Techno. Should we do that? And we felt very strongly that the industry did not need another virtual event. So we were adamant about waiting until it was safe to return face-to-face. So effectively, we had zero revenue for 16 plus months, at least on Techno and some of our other events who also chose not to go virtual. So that was tough. We had a lot of our staff got put on full part-time. And things are really, I think, coming back stronger than ever. I think the virtual will always be there, but being forced to sit in front of a screen for so long for training purposes, the networking, I think mostly face-to-face is what people missed. So I think face-to-face events will be stronger than ever from here on out.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
I much prefer seeing people in person and getting that interaction.
Yeah.
Online virtual stuff is hard for me to follow. Right.
We were the first event effectively out of the gates for our entire company last year, in 2021. And I think our industry was so ready. I mean, a lot of guys are first responders. They're out there. They've been out within the community anyway. So we were, I think, highly vaccinated, highly smart group. And they just were ready. We joke about how irrationally exuberant everyone was last year. The first event out of the gates, it was a little bit crazy.
No, last year we were there. We felt the energy. Everybody, I felt like, was real excited to be back, have some type of normalcy in their life. It was good.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So have you started, well, obviously you started for 2023 planning for that because there's some, pretty notable changes, but so once the conference is over, are you guys normally you're already starting to plan the next year, or does the focus shift to other events throughout the upcoming year and then back to next year? Or how does that usually work?
So it depends on which position you're talking about. So for me, it's extremely busy immediately after because we're doing, surveys, attendee surveys, sponsor surveys. We're waiting for the data to crunch the data to make sure we get that press release out. Everyone's asking how many were there, how many were there. And then also already selling, we dropped the contracts in the booths, and we are already selling Wilmington next year. And then of course we have Techno California. We're going to have to shift to Techno East and Techno West soon. So Techno California is in October. So the focus will shift for me to filling that show floor. So I'll have 2 sales cycles overlapping. We'll open up registration for California immediately. So it really is a rolling cycle. And then, of course, our other team members, marketing and operations, they work on so many other events. It could be back to back to back. March was just crazy for all of them. But yeah, looking ahead and also evaluating what needs to be done, with the changes to Wilmington, to a more traditional small convention center, what makes sense? Does the current schedule make sense? Just we do a lot of evaluation. So we really, really read all of those surveys that come back. So definitely encourage everyone to fill those out in the next 2 weeks for us.
Yeah, we were actually really surprised to hear about the venue change. Can you give us a little bit more detail what went into that?
I can. When we inherited the event, a couple years later, we pretty much outgrew that space. I mean, we had conference rooms where people were just spilling out into the hallway. I've had a wait list for the exhibit hall for the past few years. But we initially surveyed folks, and not only did they not want to leave Myrtle Beach, they didn't want to leave the Marriott. So we're like, it's not broken. Let's not fix it. So that kind of spawned the other locations. So if we can't grow here, grow the brand, grow the revenue there, that got us talking about the other locations. Fast forward to the last couple years, and I think we have a lot of new folks coming in that don't have that. Oh, it's always been here. It's got to be here. And I think it's become quite obvious to all of the sponsors and attendees that we definitely need to shift. The reason it happened, the timing, that the way it happened was a couple things. Number one, the growth. Number two, the hotel itself decided not to really take on business events in the summertime. They can make more from the tourists. I mean, they said we could have our original June dates, but they wanted us to pay $599 a room night, which
Wow.
obviously y'all don't want to do that.
No,
And
thanks.
they want to do that. So it being a 400 room hotel doesn't even accommodate half of the, our audience at the event. So, so they forced us to move to a month sooner this year. And we just really need to get back on those original show dates. So Wilmington, we did a lot of research, a lot of surveying. We went back and looked through all the data we gathered over the years, and Wilmington by far was the logical choice. It really did check all of our boxes.
It's not that far away, right? It's only an hour.
About an hour by car. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see a huge impact on the attendance rates from just shifting it up a month?
I'm waiting on the audited data, but I think we'll probably come in close to about 850 people. By comparison, the largest event we hosted in the past was 2019. And I remember this because it's 888. And our registration numbers were trending to come darn close to that this year. I just have to see the no-shows and everything, and anyone who's registered twice, because we always report verified people that were actually there. 1,200 people can sign up, but if only 900 show up, that's what we'll report. So I know it affected some of our regulars. There were some of our advisory board members who couldn't pull away, but overall, I think it may have opened up the opportunity for others to attend who wouldn't normally make it in June. So we'll see what the effect of those combined dates when we all are in one place, if we all return. So.
All right, cool. Well, we're excited for the new location. You can count us in. We'll be there.
I'm glad. Everybody seems excited. I mean, we got a few questions, and I finally, a couple of the sponsors, I just looked at them. I'm like, do you trust me? Do you trust me? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, it's going to be good. Because seriously, Jen Salvadori does not like change. So this is a huge change. It's gonna require a lot more investment on our part, because there's things at a convention center you don't have to worry about in a hotel space. We've got to carpet the whole hall. We could actually now ship logistically. It'll be easier because you guys can ship direct to show site. It won't cost any different.
Oh, that will be nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's going to be some things that are, I don't want to say challenges, that are going to be more normal to all of our background in huge conventions. But I think it's going to be easier for all of us. And it's a fantastic location. If y'all haven't checked out Wilmington, definitely do so. The CVB there and the city, they've been, I think, wanting an annual larger event to kind of put them on the map. And they've been phenomenal working with us. So we're going to get a lot of local support from the city.
Oh, fantastic. That'd be good.
Yeah, that's
So,
great. I have never been to Wilmington, but I looked it up and looked at some of the photos of like the downtown and the river walk and stuff like that, and it looks great. I think I'm really looking forward to that.
Right. Yeah. I
yeah, I was
think,
just going to ask if you've been there. I have not.
No.
yes, we do site visits. So we did preliminary site visit, met with obviously the facility and the CVB, and I'm super excited. Right now, the Marriott is the place to be at night. But one of the things that's I think exciting is everything's walkable. There are,
Oh,
there
nice.
are restaurants, there are bars, rooftop bars. It's right next to the arena. Folks can rent an Airbnb boat if they want to stay on there. And there'll be
Done.
multiple. Yes, you're like done.
Yep.
Your RV up, maybe. But there'll be multiple hotels in our block. They're smaller hotels, so we'll have different price points for different hotels. And there's, I think she said 8 hotels within walking distance of the convention center.
That's nice because at the current location now, you have to take an Uber or you have to rent a car to get anywhere. There's like a couple places within walking distance, but I feel like the entire conference hall goes to those couple places.
Yep.
So the
Yeah.
wait list is ridiculous at night to eat.
Yeah. So it should be a lot easier as far as, obtaining something, and much more budget friendly with regards to the lodging as well.
Oh, good. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
So, as you like prepare, because like before you've always had it here at the Myrtle Beach location, is there anything different that goes in the planning process with a new location, obviously, than meeting with like the board members and trying to figure out all the little nuances?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was hard saying goodbye to the Marriott staff because they're not the ones who made that decision. I know it was really the owner of the hotel. And they really were extensions of our team. We didn't need to meet with them like we do at other facilities. They knew our ways of doing things. A couple of those folks are going to be tough to leave, and I'm sure I'll keep in touch with them. But when you go to a new facility, it's a whole different ball game. We will do another operational site visit, one much more extensive, where we decide where we're doing the signage, how things are going to roll out. So we'll have significant preparation calls with this facility that we haven't had to do with the Marriott before. A convention center, like I said, it's so different. The food and beverage catering situation will change. We will likely not be offering lunch anymore, simply because we don't want to continue to raise costs with the cost of everything going up. That way people will have a choice of where they can eat. There is a concession stand in. We'll have seating on the show floor. You guys don't remember, but we used to have seating at the back of the Myrtle Beach Hall. So we'll have food served there, but there are also restaurants in the hotels right next to it. And, people can step out for lunch, step back in. So it's a lot of changes, but they're very detailed. We now have to have, I think, first aid. We've got to hire a first aid person on site. We'll need more security guards because there's more entry points. So it's a lot.
Just a few more things,
Yeah.
So since you're changing, venues and stuff like that, can you share with us like your most favorite memory that you've had at the Marriott in years past?
Favorite? Gosh, it's really been a home for me. When I pull up there and I check in for the week, it's kind of like all this work. Here we are. I think my favorite thing is just really seeing everybody, seeing people's kids. After COVID, one of the things that like struck me in my heart was we don't change that much in the span since we'd seen each other, but seeing like some of the people's kids, they changed significantly in 2 years. My favorite thing is just waking up in the morning and getting the reports from the hotel of what occurred overnight after Jen crashed and burned. Because down by the pool, one year we had a report that came through that in the middle of the night we had a bunch of attendees out by the pool. They had decided to climb over the fence and go down the water slide. So the security guard obviously had to call them down. They're like, here's our credentials. You can't tell us to do, much alcohol involved. So the Myrtle Beach police were called, and they came. So finally they got them, to back down. But that was just the funniest thing. I'm like, what's next? What's next?
I didn't even know there was a water slide. Where's the water slide? I missed it.
It's out by the pool. Yeah.
Man,
It's out by the pool.
there's so many opportunities I could have had.
Right.
Gone.
Did you even step foot outside on the beach?
No,
Were you
I
sand
did
in the
not.
toes? Most of
No.
us don't. I can be there for a whole week and never step
There,
out outside on the sand.
there was beachfront at the hotel.
Right?
There's an ocean? Where was it?
So,
No,
Yeah.
the only time I get to see the beach or anything like that is if I step outside on like the little pavilion area to talk to somebody for about 5 minutes and then go back inside.
right.
Yeah,
So-
or at night. I made it down there a few times after dark and just was able to sit out there by the ocean, which is nice.
Mhm. Yeah. The Wilmington Convention Center, if you look at it, it's not on the ocean, it's on the Cape Fear River. And there's a boardwalk that runs, is about a mile long boardwalk between the two bridges that leads down, to the restaurants and everything. So
Mhm.
you'll at least see the water there if you're going out to eat.
Oh, good.
Yeah, well, I really like the boardwalk idea. Like the Myrtle Beach conference, everything was like you're kind of stuck at the hotel unless you rented a car or Ubered. So being able to walk to different restaurants, I think, will be really nice.
Right. I hope it opens up the opportunity for, some more sponsors to have events with attendees. I know from experience, those shuttle buses that some of them, charter to get them back and forth can be quite expensive, especially if you're running them in loops. So I think it'll open up the opportunity for some folks who don't quite have such a big budget to do something because it's all walkable. There's some breweries down there, there's distilleries, great restaurants. So I'm excited to see. I don't want to say change. Change is hard again. I'm excited to see how it adds to the experience.
Yeah,
You're
sweet. Well, I'm
excited for the
excited for that.
possibility.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. So, you've obviously seen we're a small team. We're very new to the digital forensic industry as a company. Can you kind of share with us, like, you've seen companies come in, you've seen companies come out. What is someone who sticks in your mind that's like a great underdog story that you can share with us?
Well, you guys are coming out of the gates pretty strong. Love that. I'm trying to think. Ryan at MOS Equipment, he was kind of the first non-traditional person in a booth that we've had. Like, it's a lot of software, it's a lot of hardware. You got the box guys, you got the tech guys. Ryan, as you know, is like an ancillary service. When he initially came in, I think he was surprised at how well he did. He's done so well. He's increased his booth space at both of our events. And now we've got, for the first time, a couple of his competitors have noticed that he's coming through the doors. So we've got 2 more of those guys. So he's going to have to continue to be his outgoing self. So that was interesting. It's interesting to get some ancillary products that aren't, and I'm sure you can hear my Great Dane Ari that we mentioned barking.
It's fine. We welcome all barks, small and big. It sounds really threatening, actually. I would not want to walk up on your property.
Yeah, nobody
Me,
comes.
Ari.
My college kid is at home up there, probably sleeping. So normally I'd be like, let's text him, get the dog quiet. He's asleep. So.
Oh my gosh, so that's exciting. So it seems like he has a lot more other competitors, like you said, coming into that space. Is it because of different marketing techniques that have brought them in, or is it just, I don't know, the roll of the dice there?
Yeah, I'm not sure. They both seem like young companies. I'm not sure. I think that a lot of it, our brand existed very much in a bubble prior to us taking it on. Now that we have the space to grow, I think our marketing will change. Our marketing will beef up, because we don't want an attendee to come to the event and not be able to get into a classroom. So, but yet we don't ever want to be some huge, you've got the RSAs of the world. We like the space that we're in, small to medium events. So we'll see what else is being brought in. We did add an e-discovery track to the California event this year. That's something that I've been pushing for based on trends in the industry. It just is logical, to take that evidence that y'all are gathering and push it through to actually, getting those convictions. So we're kind of soft put that in there to see how it goes. We're getting a great response. We've had some big agencies reach out and offer to help us with developing that content. And then next year in Myrtle Beach, that will also be added. So I think you'll see some different folks start coming through the gates there.
Okay, awesome. Wow. Jared, do you have anything?
Yeah, so you guys started out in cyber or in computer security and sort of physical security, and then eventually kind of transitioned into the digital forensics space. What kind of brought about that transition? And then what do you guys hope people get out of the conference that's unique to Techno that maybe the rest of the industry doesn't provide?
Yeah, the tradition started before the transition started before we got the event. Really, that the mobile phones, the smartphones, that's when it shifted significantly. Again, it used to be this big long name co-located with Mobile Forensics World, so we kind of shortened the name a little bit. So that brought about the huge change, and tablets, obviously, it wasn't just on the desktops anymore. So, and of course, the internet, cloud, social media, that just really sent our event into orbit. What do I hope people get out of it? Obviously, education. For me, if I can help people learn and be out there catching bad guys, that makes me happy. One of the biggest things I think that people walk away from Techno with, that I think you can't really measure, is who they meet. It's the networking. If you meet someone on show site and you keep in touch with them through LinkedIn or however, whatever that may be, if you exchange cards, if you come up to a problem in your day-to-day workspace and you have a question, you can reach out to anybody that you've met there. And honestly, if they don't know the answer, they'll know someone to send you to. So it's that network of people that you now have access to, having met the top minds in the industry. So that, and I also get calls now and then from people who are frustrated kind of with a case that's personal to them that they're kind of trying to spearhead. So I refer people back out to digital investigators who work, cases on the side. I hope we can be a resource, whether it's, individually or as a collective network. That's what I want them to take away. And I tell people, even on the sponsor side, you guys are new coming in as new sponsors. I always tell people, call me. This is my cell phone anytime you have questions. So even on that regard, I hope to be a resource just because that's what we do here.
No, I remember our first year, I actually called you and I was like, hey, I'm locked out of the conference space. You're like, I'll be right there. And you came like just cruising down with a shaker in one hand and olives in another. And you're like, I'm making martinis, but what do you need? I immediately was like, I love this woman.
I need to clone myself on site. I'm like, zoom, zoom, zoom. That's going to be a challenge as we grow in the convention space. I'm going to have to get one of those little carts, that you see on those sites. I'm going to have to because I'm going to have to get to places faster than ever.
Yeah, we're going to have to get you one of those like little segways so you can just zoom around everywhere. Make sure it has a little cart, like a little basket in the front so you can put like your drinks and snacks.
Snacks and drinks.
Yeah, get you a scooter. I think Kevin's probably got one he's going to get rid of.
Yeah. I think Kevin lost that.
You give me a Segway, I'm going to need a helmet. I don't want to.
We'll get you a helmet. We'll get you one of those helmets with like the mohawks on the top of it or something like that.
And I'll put my Techno security stickers on the side.
There you go. Oh my goodness. So I guess one of the things I'm really interested in, because I do a lot of the planning on behalf of ArcPoint when we go to these conferences and like figuring out what we need and logistically how everyone's going to and stuff. What are some of the hardest lessons learned that you can pass down for, people who are attending one of your conferences first time?
Right. As a sponsor, a lot of people realize this year, you've got to get your hotels squared away. Everything else can wait. Once you get that contract in and get in early so you're happy with your space, make those hotel reservations the second it comes out, because then it won't be such an issue going forward. You'll have hopefully options, but for us that was the biggest challenge at the Marriott. The other thing is to pay exceptional attention to that timeline. There's usually a deadline checklist, not for just our event. Most all events have a deadline checklist. Take a look at that the second it comes out and put to-dos into your calendar, because as we shift, if you miss deadlines, then your costs with general contractors, with renting the lead trackers, things of that nature, they can go up by as much as 30%, sometimes more. So that's one of the most critical things I learned the hard way as a 22-year-old marketing assistant. I busted my budget and I never did it again, because that was just something that was shocking to me, how far over budget you can be if you're not prepared and planning ahead on those deadlines.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that a lot of people can get carried away because Techno is such a large conference, and it's usually the largest one where you get like the greatest, participant participation, I guess, in your industry. So it's hard not to get the coolest swag and the most this and the most that, and then next thing you know, you spent $75,000 and you have no idea how.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
it's hard to hone it in.
Yeah. Attendees like the swag, but does it make sense? Does it add value? Obviously, if they are coming to your booth, are they truly a prospect? So I think one of the other things I'd like to see all of our sponsors do more is pre-show marketing. I know this year it was hard. People went from Mass Cyber to IASIS so everybody was a bit overwhelmed, but we provide some amazing marketing tools within the online exhibitor kit. You can send out invitations, PDF invitations, emails direct to your group. We don't have access to those, but it's co-branding, and that really helps build the profile of the event to gain more reach for the benefit of the industry as a whole. And on the attendee side, I would tell people, download the app right when we send that planning guide out the week before and start looking at those sessions and planning your days. Because on the attendee side, I get so many people saying there's too many good ones during the same time frame. I can't get to all the things I want to get to. So I always tell them, if there's two that conflict, go to the one that doesn't have the slideshow listed in the app, because not all the speakers give us their presentation. So pre-show planning is big for both attendees and sponsors.
That's a good point. I didn't even know that they provided the slides after the fact.
They are the speakers that do. They are loaded into our app. But again, a lot of the information, we don't require that of our speakers because we don't pay our speakers. They're giving of their time back to the industry. And obviously they're getting exposure for their knowledge and hope to gain other speaking spots. But the ones that are in there, they're great to download.
And just for like the individuals who haven't attended Techno that may be listening to this, a lot of the speakers all of the speakers during the conference are teaching something. They're not promoting a product. They're not just demonstrating, what their products or solutions are that are like related to their company. It's a challenge that's within the DFIR community that's really important, and that they're trying to help the overall landscape solve for.
Yeah, and that I
was
think
really
is
key.
Yeah, that's a big change that we brought about also when we took on the event. The educational program was mostly demos. So we formed an advisory board that helps us vet the content. So we do have an open call for speakers each year for each event. And we have different advisory boards on each of them. So we get, different input. But we've tried very hard to push that salesy pitch out, that it needs to be vendor neutral. It has to be, focused on a solution. And there are some vendor demos because that's a separate thing, but we do clearly tag them as demos. They are packaged in with some of our higher level sponsors. And then our hosts going forward now are titaniums, because we did change the packages. There'll be 4 of those offering content that can be vendor specific. So.
Okay. Is that going to be for both locations or just one or the other?
The goal is to grow the West Coast event to mirror the East Coast event. And we hope to do that by 2023, maybe 2024. We will sell out and outgrow the space at Torrey Pines this year as well. So we'll be looking for a new home for California as well.
Oh man,
nice.
I mean, that's a good problem to have, right?
Yes. So.
Does that have the app? Does that event have an app that you can download, same app, or?
It's the same app.
Okay.
And it's very user-friendly, easy. I love it. I refer back to it. Well, now that we don't even have the printed guide, we did away with the printed guide during COVID. It just made sense to go to the app. I actually have it on my phone, and it's contained in a packet. So I have all of the apps from the past years. So I might get a call from someone that said, I heard this speaker 2 years ago. The topic was vaguely this, and I think they were in one of the rooms downstairs. I can pull that app up and I can narrow it down and get them the information and send the speaker details they need. So I love having it.
And that's what makes you amazing, is that you're like, let me find this out for you. 4 years ago, got it.
Just give me 10 minutes.
Oh my goodness. So I guess another question too is like the call for speakers. How far advanced do y'all post that out? And is it a blind selection? How do y'all make the selection?
Um, that's one of the first things that we do is start to do the call for speakers and get that content out there. For the June event, we typically send the call for speakers out, I want to say at the end of September. I'd have to look at my timeline because it was so different with COVID. It's not just at the top of my brain. And then we usually close it the end of December. So then we take about 3 weeks. Our advisory board, literally, they have a program. They go in and they rake it on like 5 categories. Is it relevant? Is it vendor neutral? What is the experience of the speaker? Are they qualified? Things of that nature. And then it all gets into this spreadsheet of a program and spits out the averages. So I always tell people you can submit up to 3 per person in the call for speakers. And I always tell people submit 3. You have a higher chance of being selected. Because, for example, if I have 5 drone submissions and I can only do 3, well, those 2 people who didn't get selected that weren't the top rated ones, if that's all they submitted, then they're not going to be speaking.
Yeah.
So, to submit across the content helps too, because we get so many more with forensics right now, simply because of the history of the show. It is shifting a little bit. California is a little bit different. Again, we added the e-discovery. But yeah, it's a huge process, and that's why we have our advisory board, because I am by far, I don't know anything about what you guys do. I just produce conferences and know it from a high level what's relevant and current. And then Allison starts working with them, with the speakers to build out the program and everything.
Is the conference list, like the people attending versus Myrtle Beach versus California, is it drastically different in the type of attendees you're getting, or is it about the same?
It's hard to say, because California, we're in our 4th year. 2 of the first 3 were definitely affected by COVID. Obviously, we kind of expected it to be a little bit different, just based on, we thought we'd have more information security, more audit and risk. But the first 2 years, it was pretty much the same. It's not as large, obviously. Last year, interestingly enough, coming off of COVID, we saw a huge spike in law enforcement agencies. The law enforcement percentage of attendees went up by about 10 points. And I think that was because a lot of private companies were still not allowing travel. And in California, the California agencies don't typically get approval to go outside of their state for training. So we drew from a lot of local county agencies, municipalities in the state of California for that show last year.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah, I would imagine that COVID, there's a lot of restrictions in California, so that kind of.
Do you see a lot of military coming to the event out in California?
Not as much as you would think. We have quite a bit more, again, because Myrtle Beach is so much more established, but we typically have all of the various services, represented in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of military for sure out on the East Coast, so I wasn't sure. And there definitely is some out West Coast as well, but I would probably expect more law enforcement and, like you were saying, security, consulting, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So we've seen you run around every which way in that way, and we know that you left 2 days early, but can you kind of give us some feedback on how, I know for me it's important to get downtime during the conference, and like how to balance the sanity aspect of it, of running from here to there and everywhere?
I am completely reactionary on site. You always have this, again, this is how it should go, and this is how it actually goes. My biggest challenge this year was actually people not shipping things properly, which creates a waterfall effect of problems. If it's a bag insert, if it's, freight for someone's booth, we got to track down. To remain sane on site, we have a few drinks. I try to balance it out. My policy is 1 drink, 1 water, because the expo floor doesn't open till 11 o'clock, 11:30 the next day, but I'm still down there usually at 7 a.m. my team is awesome. They're like, just don't come down for the keynote. Don't come down right away. You're good. Because I'm the one that stays out and party hops. And I just like visiting all of you. Just stay sane on site. Just try to balance it out. Drink some water.
Do you have a ritual after all the events are over? Like after California, do you go on vacation? Do you take 2 weeks off? What does that look like?
I don't necessarily. It depends on what's going on. You can see my voice is still gone from last week. I'll usually stay in Myrtle Beach. I'll stay one extra day and go home a day later, mostly because I drive and I'm so tired. There's no way I can drive. We always say we're going to take a couple days and stay, but we're really jetting out and on to the next one. Plus, we've been gone from our family, so we're eager to get home. But I will tell you, I come home and I sleep. I mean, I sleep for like 3 days, and then we start it all over again.
Oh my gosh, that sounds lovely. Actually, that was what I did this year. Is I came home and I slept. Never slept so much in my life, but I also lost my voice from just talking to so many people.
Yeah.
That's good. Jared, what else you have?
Well, I was gonna say, like, just talking about like energy throughout the week. I got one of these Aura rings, and I saw the week, kind of the analytics for my week, and it started out, and then like Sunday coming in, like good sleep score, readiness score, and then just like as the week went on, just staying out late, and my sleep was like no sleep Monday, a little bit of sleep, and then in the weekend it was back up. So it was kind of funny to see. But yeah, it's just like just all output as hard as you can go, and then trying to find some time to recover at the end.
Yeah. I always pack stuff to work out. If I get there, I'm usually the first one in, so I'm usually there a day and a half before I'll go for a run on that day. And I always have high hopes that I might get one more in, but it never happens.
Yeah, I tried to go jog in the morning when I could, try to get at least 20 minutes in a day if I could. I was fairly successful with that this year, but last year not so much.
Yeah, I got up real early and tried to work out, and it was, I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, I'm on my feet like 12, 14 hours every day. I don't need to add a workout on top of it. It's just,
Are there
my
good
body's
running
like, what are
trails
we
around the
doing?
Wilmington Conference Center?
Well, there's the boardwalk.
Okay.
The boardwalk goes quite a ways down. So
Oh, that'll be great.
on my site visit, I'll explore it more. I'll report back to you.
All right.
We expect it.
Yeah.
We want to know all the good bars and restaurants and running paths.
Yeah.
How the boats are. Definitely take a boat out.
Okay. Well, when we went there on our first site visit, it was, I want to say it was January. It was cold, January, February, maybe. So the boats weren't all on the slips, and they had said it's empty right now, but they will, as the weather gets nicer, the Airbnb owners will bring them all in and they'll be full. The marina will be full.
And people actually just Airbnb the boats and stay on them.
Yes.
Huh.
Well, we know what Jared's doing next year.
Just Google this.
We're never going to see Jared for the entire conference now. He's gone.
I'm going to be virtual to that conference from the boat.
No, we are face to face. Remember?
Oh yeah.
He's just going to be yelling from the boat. Hello, from ArcPoint Forensics. Well, is there anything else you wanted to share with us about the conference or the venues or anything you're looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to exploring where we'll be next for California. I think it'll be Southern California. But people don't realize the challenges, when we say, well, we're looking for a new home. How about here? How about here? How about there? There's so many puzzle pieces that have to fit in. We run 8 consecutive rooms on the East Coast event, and we're building up to that on the West Coast event. So just if the industry can come out to the West Coast, we will grow and be a Myrtle Beach. Everyone thinks, oh, Myrtle Beach is bigger. It's bigger because it's been around longer. So with our sponsors really jumping on board, and some of them in a larger capacity, since now we have just the 2 events, not the 3 events, they've stepped up their efforts there and their presence there. And that's really going to be helpful to get the support of the sponsors, because wouldn't it be great to have 2 quote unquote Myrtle Beaches a year? Because there really is no attendee. Yeah, there's no attendee overlap between the 2. There really isn't. Our speakers and our sponsors overlap, but the attendees not at all. So if you've not come to our West Coast location yet, and you've always been at Myrtle Beach, please join us there because I think it'll be amazing for you.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in too, because there's one negative thing that someone had said about the pricing of the conference, and I just need to speak on this. So as someone who is a small company who is balancing budget all the time, Techno is a little on the pricey side. However, I feel like the money is well spent because you spoiled us. Our very first conference out of the gate was Techno Myrtle Beach last year. And I was like, oh man, like all the curtains were set up, the tables were there, everything was put together. All we had to do was just throw our stuff on the table and that was it, right? We didn't have to worry about running power or internet or anything.
Mm-hmm.
The very next conference I attended,
Yep.
I showed up. The curtains were on the ground, the bars were all there, and the tables were in the back in pieces. And it was just me. And it was like, oh, so I went up to the event director and I was like, hey, just want to let you know, like I'm here to set up my booth. They said, okay. And I said, well, I ordered some tables. And they said, they're over there, grab them, put them together. Let us know if you need a screwdriver. I was like,
oh my goodness.
Okay. But it was probably an eighth of the cost. And I was like, okay, you definitely get what you pay for. It was like, I had to go out and get like a 50-foot like extension cord just so I could have power to like the booth. I was like, this is crazy. Yeah.
That is. So yeah, I get that a lot. But if you look at it, I mean, and some of the events in our industry, it's really not a comparison. So for example, like ICAC in Seattle, it's on the Microsoft campus, you know, it's all paid for essentially, or some of the others like CACC, it's a not-for-profit. We are a for-profit company. I think it shows in how we run the event, but most trade shows in North America, and this is something I always have to point out, the published price is basically your concrete. It's your space and pipe and drape typically. And then through a contractor, you have through whatever general contractor they use, you then order your chairs, your tables, your trash can will cost you $30. And then through the facility or through the electrical contractor, you then have to order your electric separate. And then you have to, you get paid, you get a bill based on the weight of what you ship in. That's called material handling and drayage. So we chose a long time ago to just streamline things and package that all in. Because again, those are the things that if you miss that deadline, your costs are going to go through the roof. So, I mean, if you look at what those costs at most traditional trade shows, I would challenge you that we're not that expensive. The other thing that we package in that is key to attracting the right audience and energy at the show is passes for your clients and prospects.
Yeah.
So those have a value of anywhere this year. I think the early bird rate for law enforcement and government was $7.95. So they have a value of $7.95 up to $12.95 that you can offer your clients and prospects. So, you know, we have to offset that as well. So I think the value's there. And tell me, I always tell our sponsors, who do you need to see for this to be a good show? Who do you need? Give me some agencies, give me some names, give me some, you know, demographics of attendees, and I will find that person and drag them over to your booth. Make the introductions anywhere I can. So
no, and we 100% believe you, but for those that are listening, she is 100% honest when she says that. So no, I think the value is there. That's why I wanted to bring it up, because a lot of people, when it comes to price, they're like, oh, well, I could go to this one or this one. Well, hands down, it's not even comparable. For us, we got spoiled for our very first conference. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And I do mean it. I really do. When I get new people calling in and asking, I always tell them, I'm like, if our event fits for you, that's great. We'd love to have you. If not, and you need, you know, basic information on coordinating any other trade show, call me. I've been doing this a long time, helping those newbies streamline their efforts, because I came in, I was a frustrated mess of a person the first couple shows I did, because I didn't have somebody, you know, telling me those little tidbits that really can streamline. So I mean it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Jared, do you have anything else?
I would just say it's obvious that you care a lot about the people that are there, and it's not just like you're there to put on a show. You actually like legitimately care about the industry and the attendees, as well as the companies that show up. So it comes through.
Yeah, we call it our extended Techno family.
Well, it feels good to be a part of it. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on our podcast. I hope that it was insightful for those that are listening, especially for first timers who are looking into, potentially attending Techno or sponsoring a Techno event. So we'll have to stay tuned for all of the updates that come to California, and hopefully we will see you there.
Yep, I will be there.
All right.
Thanks for having me today, guys.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Jennifer.
Yeah, see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.